Spreading a little Chevy orange love here. This block has been hot tanked, pressure washed, and then I sprayed it down with WD-40 to protect it. Now I had to clean off the WD-40 in order to paint it. Yeah, we're going to do a couple of coats here. You can mask things off if you're going to spray it, but this block is an antique. So I went with the POR brand because this old cast iron block has had its fair share of rust, and I don't want it rusting anymore. First coat of paint is on, Chevy orange, of course, because, well, it's a Chevy. I actually debated doing Ford blue just because that's Mercury, so no, couldn't do it. Couldn't bring myself to deface a Chevy with Ford paint. Anyway, what I got is, because I don't want to get paint on the gasket surfaces, and there's parts of this flat deck that, like this right here where the serial numbers are, that are exposed, but they look like they would be covered by a head, and they're not. There's a few other spots around the sides, the corners, and that. Normally when I paint an engine, I put the cylinder heads on and hit the heads and everything. But these heads are not going to stay on this engine. They're a good head. These are actually a very sought after head. They're the 186 castings. This particular ones are a 69. They came off of a 350. High performance. If anybody knows heads, these are the Fuleys from 1969. 64cc chambers is why I'm not using them. I need to keep my compression down. And they're going on a different engine. They need to be cleaned up. They've been in storage for a few years. These have the screw-in studs, guide plates, upgraded springs, retainers, the works. These were last used on a dirt late model engine. Great heads, never gave us a problem, but like I said, I can't use them because I can't deal with that 64cc combustion chamber. The ones that I am going to put on it just showed up today. They weren't the ones I originally ordered, but they're an upgrade. Edelbrock aluminum, East Street series. You know, mild performance here. I'm not going to the drag strip, but they're going to be an upgrade over even these Fuley heads. I was going with the Summit cast. Basically, it's a Fuley head replacement, cast iron. But I ordered them in March. They were supposed to be here in June. That date passed. Then they said they would be here in August. And they called me up last week and told me that they weren't going to be in until at least the end of October. So that wasn't going to work for me. So we ditched that plan, spent a few more bucks. Bought my first ever set of aluminum heads. Yes, never had aluminum heads before because I'm too cheap. But for this engine, I broke the bank. So I got my aluminum heads. They come pre-assembled with 202 160 valves, so the big valves. If there is one complaint with these, is that the valve springs should be upgraded if you're going with a high lift cam over 500 thousandths of an inch. I'm staying just under that, so I should be good. They have guide plates, screw-in studs. They're ready to go. No modifications necessary. Again, 72cc chambers versus the 64s. These will put me 9.8 or so to 1 compression with my build, and that's way higher than I want to be, whereas these put me at about 8.85, I believe it was, when you do all your math, and my dynamic is even lower than that. So we should be a lot better shape to run, you know, regular gas. Would be nice. Okay, next thing I'm doing here, I originally purchased a stud kit for the heads. Again, these were bought with those other heads in mind. So I'm going to do a test fit just to make sure these are going to work for me. Because aluminum heads might have different clearances. I don't know. I'm just test fitting. These are all going to come back out. I shouldn't have any problem with these bottom ones, but I'm going to put them in anyway. Okay, I'm just going to place a head gasket on there. Not that that 40 thousandths of compressed gasket thickness is gonna, make or break. I'll tell you though, I'm impressed with how much lighter these are than cast. Another stomach sticker. A couple of $1,000s in and I might even have enough to put them on. Yeah, having to buy different heads really threw me off here on this build. I was securing things in preparation for one thing and then I have to make a change. Oh, well, that's not going to be a problem at all. Tons of room. Well, what I thought was going to happen happened. These aluminum heads, they don't work with the stud kit that I bought. The ARP stud kits, there's a clearance issue. There's nothing wrong with the stud kit. They're fine. It's just with these aluminum heads, there's not enough clearance to get a socket in on the end lower bolts because the aluminum is thicker in these areas. So I got to go back and order some new bolts because I'm not going to use the original OEM head bolts. Right now I got the head sitting on here with one OEM bolt, just holding them, and that's just to keep crap out of the engine. Be a few more days for this now. Big surprise. Oh, there's other things I can do in my time. One of which is put my rocker arms on. So what I got is Comp Cam's roller tip stamped steel. They're a lot heavier than factory. These are 1.52 to 1 rocker ratio compared to the 1.5 to 1 factory. So I am cheating for a little bit of lift, but it's pretty minor. Not that I'm really that concerned about it. It just happened to be the ones that I liked. That was more the factor than anything. I'm not taking these heads back off. I'm just going to put the new bolts in when they arrive, and that'll be the end of that. Now I'm getting to the point now I want to hear it run. Now this isn't really super critical what I'm doing because I'm definitely going to prime this engine before I ever fire it up. So when you're putting these in, make sure you put the round parts down. Your pivot for your rocker, if you put them the wrong way, it ain't going to last long. I'm kind of working out of sequence here, not just because I'm just trying to get some stuff done. Waiting for parts, it's just infuriating. It's more about clearing space off my workbench so I can actually do things. I got rat rod parts spread out for 40 feet here. Which is great for working on a rat rod, but when something else comes in that needs work, like, got no room for nothing because I got to move everything, and there's worse problems to have in the world, right? I'm just making sure things are going to fit at this point. I've been getting burned here lately. If things hadn't ended up being back ordered, and I don't know what's going on with whoever is supplying them, but I don't know where the heads are getting manufactured, but I got a feeling they're not China. I wouldn't think. But you never know. You never know. Any speckle instructions. Oh, Comp Cam stickers. Now there you go, Comp Cams. Somebody who's smart. It's advertising, man. Give me 2 stickers. Ooh, they're exempt some California nonsense. ARP, 1 sticker? There's 2 sides to my car, man. Wake up. You want free advertising or not? All right, lifter time. Straight up, I mean, assembly lube and put them in. There's not a lot to them. Yeah, these are just hydraulic flat tappet. These are the ones that came matched with the camshaft that I put in from Summit. So, I don't know. I don't know if they're better than stock. They're just lifters. If you are reusing lifters, you need to put the same one back in the same hole. But if you're changing a cam, you should never reuse your lifters. You can't just interchange those, not without risking problems. I mean, I've done it on junk engines that I just needed to work. Considering how important they are, not worth it. Buy new ones. And so, like I said, I already lubed up the sides in the block here. So there's plenty of assembly lube here. I'm just putting it on the bottom. And that'll sit between the lifter and the cam. The old days we used to pre-soak them, like you'd sit them in oil so that they filled up. It's really just not required. Push rods are also Summit. These are longer than stock push rods. They're the ones that the head recommends. I'm going to pre-lube the top of every lifter. Again, assembly lube is cheap. I'm not going to adjust these valves yet because again, I got to torque this head once the new studs come in. Actually, I ended up going with bolts. If you bend a push rod, you pretty much can tell it's bent. I just take it and roll it on a flat surface, and if it rolls all goofy, you know it's bent. So I didn't have to measure anything because for the most part, all of these components are matched. So careful shopping. This should give me good valve geometry with the lift I have on this cam. The rockers are matched to the heads, and the push rods are matched to the heads, and the lifters are matched to the cam. So, you know, whatever. Not like I've never had to change a part before. Got our ARP head bolts in finally. Took 2.5 weeks to get these. They got a 1/2-inch head, so that won't be a problem. I can get a socket on all of them. They still have the washers, which is good because with aluminum heads you should be using the washers. I just got these heads sitting on there with one of the factory bolts here. That would be my luck. I'd bump into it and my head would pop off magically and break on the ground or something. Okay, so right off the hop I got an issue. There's no torque spec paper with the head bolts, so I'm just going to double check. Went right to the Edelbrock site. 65 foot-pounds for the head bolts, same as factory spec. Before I do anything, I'm going to take 2 washers over and just grind and flat spot on each side so we have clearance on our centers here. Okay, I don't know why you can see that, but there we just ground a flat spot off on each side. Okay, one question commonly asked is, on all your head bolts on a small block Chevy, which ones need thread sealing? All of them. Every head bolt here as you can see by the light goes into a water jacket. You get the light to shine that way. You see there, into a water jacket. Every one. Okay, the age-old question has been answered. You can see light down in there. I'm using the Permatex sealant here. You can use different kinds, just don't use Teflon tape. Okay, sealant on the threads and then lube on the washers between the bolt head and the washer. I'm gonna speed this up and just do a bunch here on the bench and get them ready. Intermediate bolts, medium, you only have 4 of them. They go down here in the ends. All your little shorties are on the outside. You don't need a whole lot of sealant. You really don't. Like I've seen guys do just pour that stuff on there. Well, most of your sealant's just going to end up down inside your water jacket and eventually into your cooling system. And to put it into perspective, I've slammed these engines together, lots of them, without any sealant at all, and never, not once, have I ever had a head bolt leaking into my cylinder. Would I recommend that? No, but you know, there comes a time when things just got to be done. So for torquing them, you start at the center and work your way out, but we're just putting these down right now. Yeah, it's a hot one today. 32 and change Celsius. That's, I don't know what, like 90 Fahrenheit. I imagine if anybody's viewing from like Utah, you're calling me a wimp right now, but I'm Canadian, man. It don't get that hot up here normally. Okay, so all my bolts are in. Torque sequence. Start with this bolt here to here and work your way out in a spiral. Alright? Don't torque it all at once, especially with aluminum heads because they're more prone to twisting than a cast head. Go 45, 55, 65 like that. So 45 for the first pass. Now we're going to go up to 55. Okay, last pass at 65. Last one. Here we are. Okay, I'm going to dry set the rockers now. The biggest thing about setting these is to not overdo it. Okay, what you want to do is make sure that cylinders that you're working on, the valves are in closed position. And you could look down at the lifters and see which ones are in the open and closed position. However, just because they look to be all the way closed, they could be off by, 10, 20, 30 thousandths of an inch. They're starting to open. And this is going to involve some rotating of the engine. Okay, so what you're looking for, you can see there's still clearance here. So you keep tightening down until that clearance is gone. Just the slightest bit more. Okay, right there. Okay, we have 0 lash on both of these. So what I do now, you want to go a half a rotation to add your preload. Just like that. Same here. Half a rotation. There's our preload done for number 1. The correct way to do this now would be to rotate the crankshaft, rotate the engine 90 degrees and follow the firing order. So 1, 8 would be the next one. Okay, 8 has the next compression cycle. So if we rotate the crankshaft 90 degrees, that'll put us on our next cylinder. What I did there, I got sick of trying to turn it over by hand and sweating in this heat. I just hooked up a battery pack and I'm jumping the starter to give me my 90 degree rotations. The last thing I'm going to do is put this back to TDC on number 1. Just past it. So I'll back her off just a bit. There we go. I'm sweating like a fat kid in the lunch line when the fries are running out. I can say that because I am a fat kid. Actually, I was really skinny as a kid. This is just good living. I'd rather be fat and happy than skinny and miserable. I'm going to put my valve covers on, and then we can work on our intake. So these are the big thick rubber ones. They got all the ridges in them and stuff, and they got the hard inserts where the bolts go to keep you from over tightening it and causing leaks. Okay, I do not put silicone on them. I hate gluing things on. It's ridiculous. If you're careful and you clean things and use good quality gaskets, torque properly, they don't leak. The cork ones were bad, and that's where the reputation came from, is those old cork gaskets that everybody used to use. And they would do them with the engine in, change the valve covers, and they would do things like put a wire under the darn thing, or the cork wouldn't be lined up right. Okay, these new ones, they're steel inside. They don't bend, they don't twist, they don't warp, nothing. These don't leak. You don't need silicone. These are nothing special. I think the brand was Demoto. I just wanted flat black, and I'll show you why later. I wanted flat black, the fins, the retro look. Edelbrock makes one, but I could not get one that was in stock anywhere, and I wasn't waiting. Intake gaskets and the rubber end pieces. Two different types. There's the ones with the little pins on them. Then there's these other ones that don't have the pins. This block has all the holes for the pins. The pins are the ones I like. They don't tend to move. A lot of guys will just go to town with the silicone here, and this is one of the few spots where I will agree that silicone does a better job. However, I'm sticking to my guns on this. You do not need to go crazy with silicone. Although I have had some leakers back here, all of them could be traced back to human error. And by that I mean the gasket moved as I was doing something. Those four corners need to be done. Okay, so this is not a thing worthy of an argument or a fight. I don't care. If you want to do it your way, do it your way. I've been doing it this way for a long time, and I don't have problems. So once you got your rubber in, another coat on top where the gasket meets the rubber. Dab it in with your finger, right into the little pocket there. It'll sort itself out. People like to blame the gaskets and all the other stuff. Truth is, almost always goes back to human error. My father always had a saying, a mighty poor mechanic that blames his tools when things go wrong. And 9 times out of 10, when something goes wrong, it's because the guy on this side of the wrench is the one that screwed it up. So now's a good time to reveal, when I said not another budget engine build, that pulley should tell you we are blowing this thing.